And she says to me, Jabu, children are very, they can be very self-centered at some point. It can just be about them. Do you really think that children are somehow they contribute in that way to say, hey, if I don't protect them as a parent, like that, overprotect. Actually, I want us to head to being overprotective,
Sure.
to our children. How was your mom?
Kids are watching. Sometimes it's not about the things you say, it's about the things you do, and the cues you give them. If I'm not showing you respect, there's no way my child is going to show you respect. He always pulls through. And I think that relationship, the chemistry with my mom, I think was such an important element in giving me comfort around him and accepting him as my dad.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry, this is
Okay. Hi, everyone. Wow. Thank you for joining us. This is one of the biggest episode. I know we've been off for a while, but we're back. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for, joining us again. So I'm not going to waste time, because today we have one of our greatest. Today we have one of those people. When the name is mentioned, everybody's like, what? So I love his new name, if I may say. Yeah, his name is Matabi Wahamatlo. Said it right.
That is spot on.
I've been practicing, bro.
I can tell. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I just use that name because I want to get used to it.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful name. I think you have, like I said, maybe it's because I'm also Jabli.
Yes.
So
same WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Same energies.
Yes, but how are you?
I'm good, and thanks for inviting me, Jabu. Because I think sometimes these are conversations that we need to have.
Yeah.
But I'm just here to be a part of that conversation. You have a bigger conversation.
Yeah.
You've been having this conversation for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm honored that you felt that I could come and be someone who can add something, to this conversation. So thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure, to be honest with you. I heard your story because I did not know about that story for a while.
Right.
Until you started talking about it.
Yes.
Because I follow you.
Yes.
So and I thought to myself, this is a beautiful story. Looking at you and looking at how you have grown and be this person, this big figure, one of our prominent, people in South Africa. So I thought to myself, wow, this is beautiful, because this is a problem that we are facing as a country and as the world, of the absence of the father, and those men that are normally stepping up. And when they are taking this big, huge responsibility, But then when I heard your story, then I thought, no, man, there are good men out there. There are men who are actually trying their best. We're not saying it was rosy, it was all perfect, but the fact is this man was there. This man did his best and contributed. So today we just want to address, maybe the absence of the father, but stepdads more, Yeah, I would say more now and then.
It's fine. You're forgiven.
I tried to say mad, but
I'm not even used to mad. I think you're the only one who calls me mad.
So we just need to encourage those men out there to say, you know what, the responsibility that they carry, and just stepping in, because they are stepping into a mess in most cases, where the mother is just in turmoil and the children or the child, is just a mess. So How do we really encourage those men? And maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about your story for those who do not know. Maybe they're wondering, what am I on about? Because
Yeah.
this is more flavor.
Look, I recently reconnected with my biological father's side of the family.
Yeah.
So, in essence, that side of my family, because it's something that I felt I had to do.
Yeah.
It happened, you know, recently because that's how long it took for me to realize the importance of being aligned, not just with your mother's side of the family, but also with your father's side of the family, spiritually, culturally, from a family setup point of view, literally in every way. My biological father is someone who was never really in my life. And, he kind of, you know, became absent from my life when I was very, very young. And so when I was in my teenage years, and he decides to come back into my life, then that completely rocked my world.
That's when you get that cuckoo.
That's when I had that cuckoo because it's the realization that you've had this feeling inside of you that, no, man, something is missing. Not because I don't have a father, because my mother married the most incredible man I know, who became my father, the man that raised me. But there was always a feeling, which I could never explain, as to what it is that was missing in my life as I grew up. And by the way, I must also make this clear. I had a great upbringing. The man that raised me has been nothing short of amazing. He's been everything and more, and he's gone beyond. But as you grow older, you realize certain things about life. And so for me, it started in my sort of teenage years when my father, my biological father came back into my life. And then I had to figure out like how to connect with him. I had to figure out what it means to now have this person that is now your dad and he's now here. And him having to very briefly explain why he hasn't been here all along. And as a young mind, it was difficult and it completely rocked my world. But fortunately, I had a supportive family. My mother was incredible and everybody else in my life. And then it became a very sort of stop-start relationship where,
I know that.
he would disappear, then he would come back, disappear, come back. And I think if I were to assume on his end the reasons, he was also trying to figure it out.
That's right.
I never got to have those conversations with him because I think I was too young to express the questions in a way that he would understand and in the way that I wanted to ask them. We never got deep into the reasons why he wasn't there, except to say, I think at most, kind of just loosely put, he would say things like, "Hone ho le thata." In Sesotho ho thata, it's difficult, whatever that meant. So it was almost like, you will have to piece together what that means. And because he's late now, there are still a lot of questions that I had that I never got a chance to ask him. But what I did then already when we sort of started to build a relationship again is just try and get to know him without burdening this relationship with questions, even though I should have asked. It sort of maybe with a little bit more purpose and conviction. But I also think back to myself, was it for me to ask or was it for him to explain?
Sure.
As a young man in your teenage years, going through high school, dealing with, teenagehood, puberty, all the changes in your life, hormonally, physically, and trying to make sense of the world. And then the relationship kind of just fizzled out and I never saw him for a long time. And then eventually, he passed away in 2011. And I remember when my aunt called me and said, your dad is late. And I didn't know how to feel because I didn't have a relationship with him. But what
was that Tupac kind of a feel that you,
You know?
had.
Yeah,
eh?
yeah. But what I knew when I job was that I had to go to his funeral.
Yeah.
And so I did. And it was a very like weird experience. You know, normally when you're attending a funeral of someone you know very well, you have a mixed bag of emotions,
Yes.
sorrow, pain, loss, hurt. But in this case, there was a lot of confusion, but also I think the process of starting to accept the reality, to say, this is what it is. And so, you know, I then had to go through life as an adult, trying to figure out the things that I never got to talk about with him through other people's experiences, through my own observations of life and my own understanding of how life was. So eventually it got to a point in my life where I had to reconnect with my father's side of the family, despite everything that had happened in the past, despite his absence and all of that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, you know, to be honest with you, it's a lot to deal with, and also myself, as I faced that my father was not around, and I'm a woman. It's another story, which I want us to touch a little bit
Sure,
on
sure.
your involvement with your daughter and how that, you know, has made you to be this father today. So I realized that also my dad was touch and go. You know, he will come and disappear, and you know, empty promises and all of that. And it's only now that I realize how that has affected me. How immediately when you, sometimes as women, when you meet a man, they say we look for our fathers. The fathers that...
I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah,
you know?
that we look
Yeah.
for fathers that we don't even know, you know. But I've realized that even those men themselves, they did not have father figures, most of them. So they didn't know how to be a father. It was just this big thing that they found themselves in, and they just didn't know how to handle it, how to do it. And unfortunately, then they will find themselves disappearing, which is the worst thing. So that's why I'm trying to say, regardless, you have to be available for your child. You have
Yeah.
to.
I think you raise an interesting point around the impact that a father's absence has on you, or just even the type of relationship that you have
Sure.
with your father.
With everyone, hey?
I think because of what I experienced growing up, my dad, the man that raised me,
Right.
taught me how to be a father. And he taught me how to look after your children.
See that.
You understand?
See that one. That's why you're
It
here.
was never... So the way I parent,
Yeah.
the way I come through for my kids is not because my dad, my biological dad, wasn't there and whatever. It's because of the nuggets and the pearls of wisdom that I got from the man that raised me, to say, this is how you raise your children. This is how you look after your family. You have to love the person you're with. You have to love your wife, and you have to love everything that you guys produce. The family you're trying to build, whether it's your biological child or not,
Yeah.
you have to come through. And he broke down all walls, you know, around stereotypes, around how can you raise another man's child?
At the time, I can imagine.
Yeah, I for one see it as a great strength in him
Sure.
to say, I'm marrying this woman who's my mom, and I'm willing to look after her and her child for all eternity. And that's exactly what he did.
Sure.
So I learned a lot from him in terms of how to be a dad. And I think there is a lot of positives that I took from him, despite the fact that he was not my biological father. He didn't segregate.
Yeah.
You know, he loved all of us, my sisters and I, you know, equally. Sometimes my sisters would be like, when I,
You're the
you know,
favorite child.
you're the favorite child, you know?
Yeah.
But that to me showed me that this is how it's done. Now, is life perfect? No. Is life a pretty picture? No. You know, is it an ideal? No. You know, but it doesn't mean that we don't have the capacity to handle different things, or to do different things, or to be, you know, a particular kind of person in life. We all have the capacity. It's just about finding ways to unlock that. And I think for my dad, the man that raised me, maybe it's got to do with how he was raised. In that kind of sort of space where he had both his parents, and he kind of understood what, you know, life was and what a family was and what it meant to build a family. But even having said that, I think in my personal experience, the way I parent is not about a father's absence and having to, you
Juggle
know,
between
make up for that and compensate. It's literally born out of somebody who got real love from a real father.
Sure, that is amazing. I was listening to the voice note, a conversation between you and your daughter.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, man, how old is this person? Everything's so well planned.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
knowing the importance of knowing about money at that stage. I'm
Yeah.
like, can I just be that girl? You know, she had everything planned. Like, you would ask a question, no thinking,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I thought this is a beautiful thing to see. And also, I want to believe it's because you are such a present father, you know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
look, I think, you know, there's a thing amongst us guys, you know, growing up, when you're like, yo, when I become a dad or a parent, I want boys only. I just want Kibata Machita.
you know, I wanted boys. My daughter must not see this.
Because, you know, at least with guys, you know, a guy can look after himself and no one will take advantage of him.
Yeah.
Because with women, you know, the guys out there are going to take advantage of her. They're going to break her heart.
Yeah.
You know, all these things. But everything I've experienced through being a father to a daughters,
Yeah.
has been nothing short of incredible and eye-opening, and I've learned so much. My daughter, I think one of the things that gives me great pride is the fact that she is her own person.
Hey, trust me, I could hear from that voice.
She is her own person. Yes, you take from your parents what you take, but she's her own person, and I love that, because I never want a child that's going to try and be me, be a mirror of what I am, or emulate what I am. Yes, you can, but be your own person. So she's very independent in her thought, beautiful heart, beautiful spirit. You know, kids gravitate towards her because she's nurturing, and all those qualities give me a sense of pride to say, that's my child. And not because I'm saying all these things that are great and, you know, about her, but that's something that you need to be proud of as a father. And how do you then say all those things I was worried about growing up, to say, yo, girls, you know, how is she going to protect herself? You teach her. Yes, you protect her, you know, like naturally as a parent.
Yeah.
But you also have to teach her how to protect herself, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, in how she interacts with other people, and how she engages with her friends, how she engages at school, how she engages with us in the family. You know, so even things like respect, knowing who you are, being appreciative of the life you have, all of those things contribute towards you enabling her to be able to protect herself. And so I think being a dad to a daughter is like such a journey, you know.
A beautiful one. A beautiful one, yeah. So the other thing, Mo, that I want us to talk about is, do you think that somehow your behavior towards your dad also made things easier for him to parent you? Because I want to believe there are men out there who are saying, but I'm trying.
No, for sure.
know, I'm really trying, but this child will never see. He's difficult.
Yeah.
He's just looking for his father, and his father
and
is
that's
nowhere, and I'm the one who's available.
Sure. Look, I think I have to credit my mom. And it's
that's a big one.
It could have been in what she said to me when I was a child, when they met and built a relationship and eventually got married. It could be in her actions, but my mom showed me why this man is a good man.
Sure.
The love that he gave her, the love that she gave him, was a cue for me to say, This man is a gem. He's a real angel. And I think that's so important as parents to say, kids are watching. Sometimes it's not about the things you say, it's about the things you do, and the cues you give them. If I'm not showing you respect, there's no way my child is going to show you respect. So the challenge of a parent, in this case, my dad, having to get me to really be into him and to understand him and to just open up and be responsive, all hinged on what my mother was relaying to me about how to relate to him. So I think she played a huge role, and I think that's the one area where a lot of people get wrong. To say you cannot bring, if you have a child or multiple kids and you bring in a partner into your life, you need to be able to show your kids the love you have for your partner. It still doesn't automatically mean that your kids are going to just like them, but it will confirm a couple of things, that mom or dad loves this person, and these are the reasons. And hey, you know what? Maybe with time we can also get to understand this person. My dad showed me love. He used to spoil me and whatever. Sometimes people would criticize him, but all of those things were just a cue, like, that I picked up from, to say, this person is my dad through and through. Like, whatever I need, wherever I am, he always pulls through. And I think that relationship, the chemistry with my mom, I think was such an important element in giving me comfort around him and accepting him as my dad.
There's a friend of mine, when she saw how I love my kids, and because I've got a son and a daughter, she saw how I love my kids. My life revolves around them, And and the other day she said to me, Jabu, I'm very worried about you. And I'm like, why? So she has like 2 sons. She says every Christmas, the 31st, we are together with my sons and everything. And one particular 31st of December, they felt like, nah, no, we're not going to spend time with you. We're going somewhere.
Sure.
And then she was like, no, but I raised you. You know how we can be. I raised you. No, you can't leave me here. So where are you going? You guys are my life. I took you to these schools. And one of the sons says, no, your choice. It was your choice to take us to those schools. So now, because we went there, now you want to bottle us like that, And then she says to me, Jabu, children are very, they can be very self-centered at some point. It can just be about them. Do you really think that children are somehow they contribute in that way, to say, hey, if I don't protect them as a parent, like that, overprotect. Actually, I want us to head to being overprotective,
Sure.
to our children. How was your mom in that? Because I want to believe that also.
Yeah.
It's another dilemma that we have.
I mean, I grew up in Dube, Soweto. It's a well-known part of Soweto because there have been a lot of prominent people that have come from there, politicians, football stars, you name it. And I grew up in a family that was involved in politics. A lot of my uncles were political activists. Some were in prison for many years. My grandfather, was a businessman, Kokasi. He had shops and all of those things. A man who was born in Lesotho, came to Joburg,
and made it.
And made it, So he was one of the pioneers in Soweto, if you want to look at it like that. So the women in the family were very strong women. My grandmother was a strong woman, and my mother took from her. So I was raised by very strong women who were the ones who were probably more protective than the men in the family. Where sometimes I could only play kocharting. I couldn't go Kilozala Strating at a certain age.
Yeah.
And some of my age mates, they were there, Bazala Strating, and I'll just be like, this is unfair. Like, what am I being protected from?
Yeah.
But as I grew older, I got to understand that, there were difficult times in Soweto for a lot of young people where anything could happen, where, I think the might and the force and the brutal nature of apartheid made a lot of people panic. Made parents reluctant to have their boys out because they could end up joining, a movement, a political party, and then the next thing they're gone. So I think it was a combination of all of that stuff. And then Lubutsotsi, and to say, you know what, let's just protect our child. But I can't say that it was a bad decision or a bad thing that they did. I understood it literally to being protective. Now, fast forward to me being a dad, to, amongst others, a teenage boy who now wants to go to concerts and wants to go to festivals. And I realize how protective I am over him, where now it's like, we're going to Uber to the mall. We're going to Uber to Monte Casino. We're going to Uber to Sandton City with my friends. Already it's like, I've got no control over the minute you leave the house, get in an Uber and go wherever you're going.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are going to do there. And it just always reminds me of how I was raised. And then I always try and do the balancing act to say, what would my dad say? What would my mom say? What would she say? But I then got to realize that it could never be the same. I can't always raise my son the way I was raised. I need to find what works for our relationship. So when I say no, you can't go to Cotton Fest, I need to explain why. You're too young, you're underage. There are things that you'll be exposed to that you may not be ready to be exposed to. You can't go to a certain place because there's no adult supervision. And you need adult supervision because this is the kind of environment that place is. So I had to then learn to explain things, where with me, it wasn't always explained. How you more, and you just have to, accept that. So I think it's important for parents to be protective. I think it's important because, remember, kids don't know everything.
Yeah.
So our job is to guide them, and the guide, which is the rails that you put on either side of the road, are there to offer that protection. So protection doesn't mean depriving your child of human experience. Protection is to say, I know more because I've walked the path, and let me tell you what I've seen. And you now want to go down the same road, and I've been to that road, and I know what it looks like. So let me tell you what that road looks like so that you don't maybe make the same mistakes I did, go into the same pothole that I went to, start drinking at the age that I started drinking, all of those things. So that's how I got to see it. And raising a teenager is like,
Tell me about it.
It's like trying to, steer a car that you're not in control of.
The wheel alignment at some point.
Yeah, there's no wheel alignment, but it's there. Your hands must be on the steering wheel, but they mustn't be on the steering wheel. But there is a lot of retrospective sort of lessons that I've picked up from how I was raised, and some I implement with my kids, and some I'm like, hey, times have changed. So things are different, sure.
So the other protection that I want us to talk about is that of a mother who is overprotective, wants to be with this guy. Well, maybe I'm just stretching you here.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Wants to be with this guy, but she's very overprotective of her children. And I remember this friend of mine, the very same friend, said to me at some point, we would fight for remote control. I would want my children, let's say the kids are watching cartoons and the dad wants to watch the news, around Kasi, 7 o'clock. It's like time for the news and all that. And then the kids would be wanting to, and she was like, no, you're abusing my kids. My kids are watching, And I said to her, but don't you think that also contributed into your marriage not working because of you are just overprotective? And then she said, exactly. That's why her marriage did not last because of, she was just, it took her the very same day, the 31st of December, that particular year, when the son said, no, you are on your own. Tina's Puma saw,
I think when couples are in a setup where there's children, there needs to be an understanding or a shared goal, vision, perspective on how to raise children and what is important. I know a lot of people say put kids first. Yes, but also put your relationship first, also put your marriage first. Because when those kids grow up and they leave the house, you are left with this woman or this man that you've been shutting out for the last 30 years, and now you have to rebuild a relationship with and probably won't know where to start. So I feel like we have to have conversations around how we want to parent. If your partner is strict, then how do you balance that so that the kids don't feel like, this one is rough on us, but Mama and she's fine. Especially if it's in a blended family situation. So it becomes a very delicate thing where it literally has to become about what works for our situation here at home. And if it's time for kids to watch cartoons, then it needs to be something that we all agree on. Like, for instance, I watch football. And sometimes I don't want to watch football in that living room upstairs or in the bedroom or there by the bar, whatever. I want to watch it in the lounge, where everybody is. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, guys.
Do you think that's fair, though?
No, then I'll be like, okay, guys, can I please watch football? And then my daughter will be like, oh, but I'm still watching. And then I'd ask, okay, what time is it finishing? Okay, let's check. And then when it's done, can I please? So you build that respect, but you also build the way in which you engage. Oh, yeah. And it kind of becomes an open thing because, and this is just the way I've done it, right? And eventually, when it's 3:00 and there's a football match, you say, Nana, I need to watch this game, and she understands.
Oh.
And when she wants to watch Bluey on TV or when he wants to watch whatever, then there's that understanding. And sometimes it's easier to just go to the other room, I know, and watch TV there. But then you lose time with your children. When I'm watching a football game, my kids know, like, oh, it's about to go down. My daughter's like, okay, Daddy's about to do somersaults and backflips and roll on the floor.
Also because we are here.
Exactly. Exactly, because we're supporting teams that give us stress. It also makes us happy and give us stress. Yeah. So you want your kids to see how you are when you're watching a game of football. Yeah. You want your kids to see how you are when you're watching, all these shows on Moja Love and whatever. Yeah. Like you want your kids to know you.
Yeah.
And you want them to build a relationship with as many sides of you as possible. So sometimes it's important to watch TV together. They must sit in the room with you while you're watching a football game. You must sit in the room while they're watching their favorite shows on TV. You must have a movie day where you're watching, zombies or whatever movie it is, so that you get to understand their world, show interest in their world, and they reciprocate. So I think every family needs to have a way of doing things that works for everyone, that will make everyone happy. I always say, and maybe it's a very still Ramaphosa thing where, he's the kind of president that just wants to make everyone happy because he doesn't want to have to deal with the confrontations.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad thing to make everyone happy. That should be the goal. Are you going to make everyone happy all the time? No. But you should aim to make everyone happy most of the time, because if it's most of the time where we're all happy, then the general sentiment around the home is that this is a happy home.
Right.
But if, there's constant division, this man wants to hog the TV and the kids want to watch, now he wants to dominate. It just creates a whole lot of drama. And like I said, how you treat your partner reflects
especially in
a lot
as well of the
kids. Yeah. It sends a signal to the kids to say, this is how you do it. But that conversation is something that every household needs to be able to have and figure out what works for them.
Sure. I want us to dive, and thank you for that. I want us to dive into, do you know about decentering men? Do you know about it?
Explain the concept to me. Explain this concept to me.
So I heard it on Amajen's podcast, right? I'm still trying to figure out what on earth is this, because I'm totally against it, I do not understand how are we supposed to decenter my men, my son, on which grounds? My son Wenzin, Masafanela Asuswe, and that the way they explain it, if I explain it correctly, is that everything has always revolved around men. Men are just at the center Everything has to be done the way they want, to please them. We get married, we please them. It's just about them and all of that. So women are saying, no, it's time for us to remove men from that center, And so I don't know who's going to be at that center if they remove men. If really at all men are in the center, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, look, I'm familiar with the idea. Maybe the terminology and around this concept is new to me, decentering men.
And I hope I'm saying it right.
I don't know where it comes from, and I don't know the reason, but I can only speculate and imagine a world where it has been a man's world, where men have dominated pretty much all aspects of society and been at the forefront of virtually every human experience, except giving birth.
Trust me, they wish, except me, they wish that you can.
So what I will say is, how I raise my kids is not about you're a man and therefore these girls need to listen to you. So in a space that I'm in where I'm a father to both, a boy and a girl, right? I will never create the impression that men are more superior to women and vice versa. You instill principles and values, which is not, we are equal. It's about human respect. It's about, this is what makes a man and a woman physically different. This is what makes us physically different. This is what makes us physiologically different. But everything else is about human interaction and human experience. So I know there are families where the boy child is important. And I get it. Even Kasi too. Barabalilapa are perceived to be important. And there are valid reasons why, and I think there are very sort of patriarchal reasons why, right? Which perhaps may not always be positive. But I think the point that I'm saying is, I don't subscribe to that idea that you must remove the boy from the center. We need to pay attention to our children. If you have a household full of boys, raise these boys to be men, exceptional men one day. If you have a house full of girls, raise these women to be exceptional women. If it's mixed, raise your children to be exceptional human beings one day. That is my approach. It's even simple things like sport. Come sports season and my daughter wants to play football, she played football. I said, no, go play football. I didn't say, yeah, but why are you choosing a man's sport? Or, or if she loves netball and my son loves football, I don't pay more attention to the football than the netball, even though I love football, right? So it's that idea of saying it's not about let's remove men from the center. I don't see it that way, and I don't know what that concept is about. It's about saying when we're raising our kids, this is how we raise them. There are things in life that you have to prepare them for, and that moment will come. Parenting, I've learned, has no manual. You can't say, okay, you see there in chapter 4 there, yeah. I know exactly what that is. Chapter 4 for you looks different to chapter 4 for me.
That's right.
So when the time comes, you will be able to say the things you need to say to prepare your children for the world out there. Now that's what I've told myself. So in my household, there's no... I'll give you another example. And these are all small things that have a profound sort of impact on how, boys and girls, ultimately see the world and perceive themselves in the world. There's always a fight around who sits in the front, right? When I'm taking the kids to school or when I'm picking them up. Growing up, it was always the boy sits in the front, the girls at the back. That's how it was growing up. I'm like, if my daughter is there before my son, she will sit in the front. It's fine. And it doesn't matter to me, most importantly. It doesn't matter to me who sits in the front. As long as, I've got my child next to me.
Yeah.
Whether Kimuradi or Kimura, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as, oh no, my son must go paga food before everyone else. No. If you're hungry, ralutsulela, or you go and you dish up for yourself, whatever the story is. So there's no patriarchal kind of situation going on in my household in terms of that. And I'm mentioning those things because if you're going to talk about trying to produce a society that will have better people, I believe that those are the things that you have to do. I believe you need to raise kids to be human beings, raise them to have values and principles, and build their abilities and build their skills and become something meaningful one day, than worry about, because you're a man, this is what you must be. Because you're a woman, you have to be able to do that. There are things around the house that I do that my wife doesn't do, not because she can't, because I'm like, no, I'll do it. And then she's like, no, if my mother sees that you're ironing, she's going to kill me. I'm like, well, then she better do it now, because it's not going to change. If I feel I want to iron this shirt because I want to iron it, that's what I want to do.
But also she's tired, I mean, also...
Exactly. You know what I mean? She's got a career, I've got a career. So all these little things, I think, in my view, are a contribution towards, raising human beings that you're sending out to the world, that you're hoping are learning something from you, to go out there and be positive out there. Positive people and productive people and people that are going to build society.
I think such concepts or movements, if it's a movement, they are actually contributing to this big problem that we have as a country. Because now you're saying that you are rejecting men more. I do not, from where I'm standing, men are now being rejected and boys are now being rejected, I feel that if this continues, one day our boys won't have anywhere to walk. They won't walk the streets if the way. Maybe it's just me because I'm men speak, but I see a bigger problem that now here you are raising your children very well, principled and everything. And here am I just raising my kids and being this feminist. And one day your son is going to want to marry my daughter, my daughter, or vice versa. Then we have this big problem. Then GVB, and sometimes I battle to even say that word, then we've got, and it's a sensitive issue. But we need to understand that also women can be bullies and are bullies.
Yeah, I think it's such a complex thing, right? And I understand why there is a need in society to bring about a balance where men and women have equal opportunity. I totally get it. It is true that men have oppressed women in many different ways, in many different aspects in society for forever and a day. And it still continues to happen. It is true that men are getting the lion's share of opportunity, whether it's pay, whether it's work opportunities, even within the family, the decision making, how things go, the direction that families go.
But don't you think that has changed, Mona?
So what I'm saying is, I understand why people feel that, let's focus on girls only. But I don't agree with the idea that we only should focus on girls. What I do agree with is, let's give girls and women an opportunity, not because they're women, but because they're human. So create an environment where people are not necessarily advantaged simply because they're men or simply because they're women. The advantage is their ability, what they have to share, what they have to offer. But it's complicated because it's so much easier said, like what I'm saying now, than done. It's nice for me to sit here and say that, but in practice, it's such a complicated thing. So all we can do, and I've resigned to just say, you know what, all I can control are my children for as long as they're under my roof. To say, these are the kinds of kids that I want to raise. I don't want to give my son the impression that it's a man's world. And if he thinks that way, it's my duty as his parent to correct that and to make him understand what kind of society we need to have in order to be better people, in order to build the spaces we're in. So it's unfortunate that there are people that feel like young boys should not get attention or men shouldn't get attention. It's perhaps also giving rise to instances where men don't know how to handle the things they feel, don't know how to talk about their problems, don't know how to talk about the things that bother them because they feel they don't have a space to do so. But it's also as a result of many other things. And I know for a fact that we men battle to talk. If you were to ask me about my problems right now, it would be difficult to talk about it. Because there's also social conditioning and the idea that, as a man, you need to protect your space and you must always give this, image of strength and you're in control. And sometimes you're not in control. You're not in control when your relationship is falling apart and there's nothing you can do about it. You're not in control. And you need to be able to be vulnerable enough to tell yourself the truth about your situation as a man so that you can empower yourself to make the right decision or decide how to move forward in your life. So all of these things are related, because while we are saying, yeah, men don't deserve the airtime, the space, the platform, just simply because they're men, we're also already compounding on this reality that a lot of men experience where we don't have space. There are men who don't have a space in their own marriages. And I'm talking about in the heterosexual sense, where, you have a wife, but you don't have a space. When you have a problem, she's not the first person you think about that you want to share that problem with. There are men who feel that way. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the wife's fault. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's his own belief around how to deal with the things that bother them, how to deal with things that are unresolved from childhood or whatever the story is. And so it becomes a complex situation where it's about making sure that men start to talk more to themselves, understand how to have a conversation with self, to know more better. This is how you're actually feeling. That no, you don't love this woman. You want mukhalla. So don't lie to people saying you love them when all you want is just what you want. So learning how to have conversations with yourself, and then learning how to express how you feel about anything, so that when you are a man who has a family, or when you are a man in society, you're able to handle your emotions and your feelings in a way that is not destructive, but more constructive.
Sure.
And the mix of that, is the result of many factors contributing to the way we are as men. Some people say, well, it's our fault as men that we are like this. Hey, maybe it is. I wasn't there 400 years ago. I don't know what the man 400 years ago looks like.
But what about your son? What about our sons now? We cannot really unburden them and say, like, yeah, so whatever that was done then, we must just put upon them. Because to be honest with you, I speak to a lot of young men. Like, they feel, like at some point I even had to say to my son, just if a girl comes to you like this, just look away. And just don't try and have that discussion, because I know immediately she goes to the police station and says this happened. They just going to things are changing now, but it's just going to be in jail. My son is the one who's wrong.
Yeah, I think it's so important to raise our boys properly, man. Life is not about how many girls you sleep with or how many girls want you. That is not life. Life is about, when we read history, which largely is written by men, right?
Okay.
And the men are the stars of the show. But when we look at history and you look at the types of lives that, nation builders, freedom fighters, kings used to live, it should teach us a lot about the idea of building, right? Because some men were builders. That life is about building and chasing after every single woman that is attractive, that looks good. That's not building. It's not building. So unfortunately, we live in a space where even we men glorify the idea of, I need to drive this car so all the girls can want me. I need to wear these sneakers so all the girls can think I'm the guy. I need to hang out at these places and buy the alcohol for everyone so that all the girls can think that I've got the money. So you're essentially making your world revolve around impressing women, which at the heart of it is not always a good thing. You need to live your life in a way that is going to make you a productive human being, a builder. And yes, if you find a woman you appreciate, tell her and hope she agrees and hope like she reciprocates and be like, yeah, let's get into it. But there's a way you do it, and there's a respectful way that you have to do it. And those are the things we need to teach our boys, to say, you don't just grab women. She's coming off a taxi, she's walking down the road, and then you want to speak to her and you grab her hand and you say, Wozala. I don't care how gentle you are. If that was your daughter, would you be okay with that? So it's all of those things that we've normalized because we grew up, we watched our older brothers doing it, Kasira. We watched our uncles doing it. Now you're a little older, now it's your turn. And you think it's fine because it's been normalized. It's the way we raise our boys. And we have to raise our boys in a way that will build them to become builders in society. But it starts with spending time with your children, being there. And this is why being a present father is so important. And we don't always get it right. And it's difficult and it's complicated. And sometimes it's many things. You have a fallout with the mother and now you can't see the child or you're not interested, whatever. The point is, being present as a father, I believe, makes a difference. Even if it's not your biological child, be present as a father if you are in their mother or father's life, because it makes a difference. I really believe it makes a difference.
Sure. So how's your heart as a man today?
Constant pressure. Constant pressure. Because you have to provide, right? Whether or not it's because it's how I was raised or, the socialization, call it what you like, but constant pressure to provide, to make your partner happy, to make your children happy, to make yourself happy, to always break walls, achieve, make money, build wealth, build a legacy. That's a lot. And I think sometimes, and by no means am I saying I'm not happy. But those are the things that, as a man, one carries. I carry that. Do I want to carry it? Yes, I do. I want to carry it. And that's why I always show up and try and show up in everything I do, because I want to carry it. But I also need to learn to know how much load I can take.
Oh.
Just because I'm a man doesn't mean I can take like an infinite load, because that's when we break down. That's when we make mistakes as men, rookie moves, destroy a beautiful thing that you have with this woman, and you destroy it because you thought
that's a lot.
You were Superman, and then you put yourself in a position where you broke down so much that you didn't even know right from wrong. And you look back and you're like, no, man, but I'm in my 30s. I can't be making mistakes that I made when I was 17. So I think it's very important for us men, and this is a conversation that I've had with myself, to take on a load that will make you happy. If you want to take on the load, if that's your thing, whether it's your love language, whatever, take on the load. If you're the one that wants to take care of everything, do it. But don't do it to the detriment of your own heart and your own soul and your own spirit. Because when you collapse, everything else around you collapses. And when that happens, there's turmoil and there's chaos and there's calamity. And unfortunately, when you break down as a man, we men don't handle it well. We don't handle disaster well, for whatever the reason, myself included. But you learn, and you try and repeat the good things and less of the bad things.
Do you think men are treated fairly?
Not always. In a family situation, a man is expected. So in a family situation of siblings, so let's say you and I are siblings, whether you're older or younger, I'm expected to provide more for, our parents or lapeng than you. That is the reality that I see, all the time, where it's okay for a woman not to send money home. And I'm not saying women don't send money home, but I'm just simply saying that these are some of the experiences that we men have, where you can't afford as a man to not work, to not have an income, whatever, where a woman can chill and it's fine. and she won't get blowback from home to say, like, Wena, what are you doing? You're not contributing anything. Those are some of the experiences. Why it's like that? Maybe it's because there's an expectation for that a man must do more than a woman. I don't know, right? But those are some of the experiences. I think that sometimes the conversation that we may need to have is that you can't always be Superman. And actually be okay with that. Without being an unproductive human being. To say, because I can't be Superman, therefore I mustn't do anything. It's okay that sometimes, you're going to try and land deals that are not going to land. It's okay. That doesn't make you less of a human being, and it's not fair.
It happens.
That people remind you that we're not winning this thing. How you've started this podcast. It's not bringing money.
Hey.
Never a podcast. And you are there. You're putting in the hours, and you putting in your blood, sweat, and tears as a man, and you've got someone breaking you down. That can't be right. And these are some of the realities that we men face. So life is complex, and I've learned that sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. And when you're wrong, the first step to freedom as a man is accepting that you're wrong. If you are the reason the marriage ended, my guy, you're the reason. Yes, there's two people, but it always starts with something. Someone did something, in more cases than not. And if you know that you did something that started a chain reaction and a domino effect where one thing just happened after the next, accept that and say, hey, but you know what? Now this is the part I played in my marriage's demise, and I need to be honest with it. This is what I did to set my life back, and I need to be honest with it. I think if we can start doing that as gents, we are halfway to freedom. Because you can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Yeah.
So you have to be honest with yourself to say, this is where I get things wrong, or this is where I got things wrong, and this is why. But you know what? I'm going to try it again, and I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to repeat the same mistakes.
So, in closure, Mo, what would you say to that man that's raising children or a child that's not his, and they really want to make it work, and they really want to raise these children? Maybe let's leave aside the fact that they are disrespectful and whatnot and all of that, because children at some point they are children. But what would you say to that man? Because that's a huge responsibility.
I think first and foremost, if you are a man that has decided to, go on that journey and have that undertaking, kudos to you, man. First and foremost, if you're raising another man's child, big up. Don't criticize the other man's absence. Because as a man, you know what life is about from a man's perspective. Even if the biological father is wrong, this isn't about that. Your role in that child's life should not be, on the back of criticizing the other guy who's not there. And do it with an open heart. If you love that woman or you love that man that you're with, let everything else you do be a reflection of that. Let the love you have for this partner of yours flow through that child. That's it. Whether it's having the patience, having the open-mindedness, just having the spirit, right, to nurture and to love another human being and to try and mold them and raise them. Whatever love is to you, let the love you have for your partner flow through that child. And relationships where love exists will produce children who know what love is. So that's how I was raised. The love my father has for my mother flew through me. And that's why I can't even relate to the idea that, a stepfather, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what a stepfather is. That doesn't exist to me. So I think based on my experience, there has to be love in the relationship for, the raising of kids to be, proper and fruitful.
Sure. So in the closure of the closure, if your dad was here, I mean your father, what would you say to him, and what would you want to say to your dad?
Look, I would say to him that all is well, and it is well with my soul. Hulukile. Literally, that's what I would say to him.
Sure.
Like, it is well with my soul, all is well. Plain and simple.
By singing.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm not angry at him. I respect him. I speak to him. Hakipahla.
Yeah.
He's my ancestor. He's one of my guides. And I want him. I want him to be around, and I call upon him with all my other ancestors to be there for me and my family. So,
Sure.
it is well.
It is well.
Yeah? Ulukile.
Sure. And your dad?
Oh, like, I don't even have words. I could never do enough to show just how much he means to me. But I would honestly thank him. I would honestly want to thank him. And maybe I'll call him after this. And just tell him that I appreciate everything he is and everything he's ever done for me. And his family. And remind him that he's important and that he matters.
Yeah.
And that we see what he does.
Yes.
Life gets too busy and whatever, and sometimes we don't say the things we need to say to the people that matter. Right? So instead of spending time on Twitter fighting with people, say something meaningful to people that matter to you. And I would tell him that I appreciate him and I appreciate everything he is as a father to us. And to me in particular.
And to your son?
You ain't going there, boy. That's what I would say. You ain't
Stay
going to that
right
concert. No, look, I would say to him, thanks for being a great co-pilot. Because my son has helped me become a father. He's teaching me what fatherhood is. So I would thank him for being a great co-pilot, co-driver, because we're doing this thing together. And I would ask him to continue to always remember that we're driving this car together. Him as my son, me as his dad. And hope that continues forever and ever and ever.
Your daughter, I know you are like... Yeah. No, man, this has been a beautiful, beautiful, meaningful conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and for sharing your story. This means a lot. I know that a man is going to heal from this. I know that a boy child is going to heal from this. I know I am going to, because I'm going to watch this over and over. And I know that there will be those women, or women will watch this, and really get to understand the importance that is played by a stepdad. It's just as important, and we must do better as women, and we must really try to teach our children, the importance of accepting, the setup, that if this man decided to step up, love your mother first, then, I remember this other woman saying the best thing that a man can do is to just tolerate those kids. If you find a man that can tolerate...
If that's the start, then that's the start.
And eventually, but I want to say, men, we really appreciate those men. We really appreciate the stepdads. We really appreciate... I don't like that name. Yeah, but for the sake of the podcast, let's use that name, We appreciate them, and I look at you, and I'm proud, to know that there's a man out there who has done this incredible work of raising a man that you are today, and a man that we have come to appreciate and love, and who is doing the most. And people don't know that you have a good heart. people actually don't know that.
As long as my kids know I have a good heart, I'm happy.
No, it's important for us to know. You talk to us every day. It's important for us, for them to know that, honestly. And I really appreciate.
Thank you.
This has been just one of those I really appreciate. You know,
No,
when
thanks for
somebody
having me.
gives you time,
Yeah.
that's everything. You know, yeah.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been good to be here and continue. This is a very beautiful thing that you're doing. Thank you for giving me, as a man, a platform. And please give
And
more
this is
men.
what it's about.
Give more men the platform.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Until we meet again on another episode. Thank you.
Cutting camera is.
And please like, share, you know. Yeah, we're still at that stage. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank
good.
you so much. Till we meet again, guys. Thank you so much for watching.